Good evening. My name's Patty Baker. Welcome to Live on Purpose. It's a community designed to help you and this entire community and whoever you want to invite to join in to come and heart, soul, mind, and strength fully focus in the present moment of every day so that your purpose will actually unfold before you. And let me tell you this, many of us don't have our purpose in our mind. Some of us do at a very young age, but many of us don't. And so we struggle with that. Like, what am I supposed to be when I grow up? And you're 50 years old, right? Or you've had a career change and you don't know what's happening in your life. And I'm telling you, when you focus emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically into the present moment of each day, that your purpose will begin to unfold before you. So thank you if you're joining me recorded. It allows me to talk to you for just a moment and invite you to like this page. And also, if you think this broadcast tonight is valuable to you or maybe your friends on your page, go ahead and share it and like it. And you can also copy the link if it's already recorded and go ahead and send it in a text message, Facebook message, direct message, email, whatever you want to do. That said, if you're joining me live, I see you. However, I will not acknowledge you unless you make a comment because I appreciate you being here and being in the back of the room. And outside of that, talk amongst yourselves. I cannot usually give content and talk at the same time. I just have never been a multitasker in that way. But I do want to acknowledge those of you on the front end who've said howdy and hello before we jump into tonight's topic, which is about quality control in your relationships. Here's the question that came through the Facebook Messenger, and that's where all these topics are derived from. People sending questions and topic suggestions. This was a topic suggestion, and it says, I have a topic suggestion. Can you talk about how to have quality control in romantic relationships? So that's what we're going to dive into tonight. There is a 10-second delay if you're joining me live. So, hi Patrick, wonderful to see you. I hope the summer is doing well for you. My dear friend Joyce in the house tonight. Always good to see you, beautiful woman. Nathan, I love you, and I'm glad that you're here. Thanks for joining in, and definitely going to keep you in prayer. I know you had a sleep study, I think, last night or something, so you have been on my prayer list, so thank you for sharing that. And just sending out hugs to everybody else who's in the back and sharing love with you tonight. Hi, Ed. Thank you so much for the drawings that you send into me. They're encouraging and inspiring, and I just love how you have such a creative mind in order to do the drawings that you do. So thanks for doing that. And hi, Sunny. Wonderful to see you tonight. I'm glad that you're here as well. Good, you had eye surgery and you can only hear. All right, hey, you know what? Many times people are joining in while they're on the road commuting, especially those on the West Coast. It's about 5 p.m. and so I'm glad that you can just kind of close your eyes and dial in and listen to the message tonight, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. Let's dive in. When this topic question came in, it was from a female. And normally when I get questions that come in, I just go over to the Facebook page and just see who they are. Sometimes I know because I follow all of you and what you're doing, and I'm invested in your lives in that way. So I knew a little bit about her, but as I looked, I realized this is a professional woman. She is a middle-level manager in a Fortune 500 company. She's a with it kind of gal. You know, she's got a lot on her plate. She's got 3 beautiful kids. She's married and running a hard and fast career. So I am understanding what she's saying when she's talking about quality control, because she's in an environment where most likely quality control is a huge deal. But in my mind, I was kind of being funny about it because I was like, you know, I just made up names. I'm like, Christy and Brandon sitting in a tree, K-I-S-S-I-N-G. First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes all the hard work so you don't have to pick up the wreckage, right? And so this is what happens in our marriages, and we get it going, and then all of a sudden we're like, what's happening? Or even in our dating relationships, right? It's all great in the beginning, and then all of a sudden things start to get real and issues start to come up, and then you're like, what are we doing here? Like, who are you and what did you do with the person that I started dating 6 months ago? So I want to talk for a minute about this quality control, because I think she used a very key phrase when she asked the question, this lady who sent this in. And again, if you have a question, comment, suggestion for Thursday night, send it in the Facebook Messenger. There's a send message button at the top of the page, Live on Purpose, and just send it over there. They usually get through in the order in which I put them out as a broadcast in the order in which they're received. So anyway, quality control. It's important that we understand what quality control is, because it's a business term. And she's using it in the context of relationships. So how can we have or develop quality control in our romantic relationships? What is quality control? You know me, I use only 68 references. The 66 books of the Bible, Google Dictionary, and Wikipedia. That's about it. All right. I found this in Google Dictionary. Quality control is a system of maintaining standards in manufactured products by testing a sample of the output against the specification. Sounds kind of technical, doesn't it? Like, how does love fit into all that? So, quality is designed to monitor, right, what's happening with in this case, I mean, there were several definitions, and we'll go into those in a second, but quality's been defined as a fitness for use. How good is that product, and what can it withstand? What is the testing that's done on it in order to make it good enough for the use that it's been intended for? How does it conform to the requirements of what we're trying to produce? And are we pursuing excellence in the midst of the production of that product? And even though the concept of quality has been around for ages, it's really only been established in our culture for about the last 100 years or so. And I want to just take you back through that. You're like, Patty, what are we doing talking about quality control in businesses and how that relates to romantic relationships? That's what I'm here for tonight. I get it. But I want you to understand where the question's coming from, because this lady is analytically thinking about quality control in businesses and how that relates to relationships. And she's trying to transfer that skill set because she thinks there might be some value there. And so I believe that there is too. But how do you translate that out? And if you've ever worked with an employer where they have quality control measures in place, you can understand what I'm talking about. I'm saying quality control. It could be quality assurance and any number of other things. Okay, so the Industrial Revolution hit, 1920s. And all of a sudden we have this mass production of products. And as a result of that, now what we're having to do is focus on, wait for it, quality. Because it's not just the product that we're putting out, but it's how that quality became important in order for people to use it. Things used to last a lot longer back in those days. Quality was a huge, huge component. In the 1950s, then it was not so much the outcome of the product that was the quality they were looking for, but employers or businesses, companies, were looking at the processes, the quality of the process in which those products were being made. Again, we're still talking in a manufacturing setting. And it wasn't until the early 80s that they came out with this concept called TQM, which was total quality management. And in our business industry, what we had established was this evolution of principles, if you will. And these principles were developed to include the quality of the end product, the quality of the process in which that product was made, the end product was produced, but also the processes within the company, which included the management. So now we're incorporating that. And then beginning to creep into that was not only manufacturing, but also service-related industries. That began to explode. And so somewhere around the late 80s, maybe 1986, maybe 1987, 88, a new concept of quality came into being, and it was called ISO. ISO is the international organizational standard for quality. And ISO created something called ISO 9000. And these standards were developed for organizations to ensure that across the board, that companies would meet the needs of their customers. And if they were certified in following these standards, that it would help them to have an edge in the quality of the products and the processes and the management and the systems that they had. And primarily it began being used for government contracts internationally. But then there was regulations and statutes that were attached to those requirements related to the products or services, ISO 9000. We also saw during that time as ISO 9000 evolved, and there's been revisions since, the 80s. I think the last revision was 2015. But we've seen the medical industry, hospitality industry, computer software industry, telecommunications industry begin to become a part of this ISO 9000 organizational standard, so that they can say, yes, we adhere to quality in our company too. On a much more customer service level, I think JW Marriott with Marriott Hotels and that whole conglomerate, they were really on the forefront in the hospitality industry with putting out standards for service. So if an employee was trained that if there was a person that was in so many feet, a customer that was in so many feet of them, they were to make eyesight and speak first to the customer. So just those kinds of things were the type of quality that they were putting in customer service. If you've ever been to Chick-fil-A, you say thank you or whatever, can you get me this? I'd like to have extra that. And their response is, my pleasure, right? And so there is a level of customer service that's there, where when you go to McDonald's at 8 o'clock at night and you want to get an ice cream cone for 99 cents and they say, yeah, well, the machine's broke. The machine's not broke. It just takes several hours to clean. And so the employees just shut it down early. So you see the difference in the product quality versus customer service quality versus what the management style is and what they're doing in order to work in those organizations. Why is all of this important? Because we're going to lay this over relationships. Doesn't that sound so heavy? You're like, oh my gosh, relationships shouldn't be that much work. Neither should running a company, but it is. We think of relationships being very easy to get into. We get into it, they look great, we have sex, we're having a great time, and then what happens? Things begin to fall apart. And we're like, what happened? I don't understand. I thought everything was great. She looked good. He felt good. But there's no more substance beyond that. And now all of a sudden we're trying to put something together that maybe didn't exist in the first place. There are 7 quality management principles, if you will, in ISO. And I want to take those 7 principles and lay them over relationships. If you're looking to increase the quality of your relationships, these are some areas that you can begin to take a look at. For yourself, for your partner and you, and for your family, and for the vision that you have as a couple, whether it's building an empire or building a family or whatever your goals and visions are for yourselves. And this requires a constant investment. It's like a bank account. If you keep taking out of it and you don't keep putting anything into it, eventually you're going to be bankrupt in it, right? So think about those things too. I'm going to say a quick hello to all of you who've joined in before I start on these 7. Hi, Robbie. Wonderful to see you. Thanks for joining in tonight. Always good to see you. Kevin is in the house. I'm so glad you're here, sir. Thank you for being here. And hello to everybody else who's joined in and watching tonight. Always Always, always, always wonderful to see you all. I'm just going to scroll up real quick. Damon's in the house. Hello, sir. yeah. And Ed, you finished that for me in the baby carriage, right? Okay, so you understand food safety industry. You know, being a quality assurance manager in the Food and Drug Administration, in the food industry, huge, starting in the 50s. Came about. And I see all of you who are watching. I just want to say a quick hello to you because I see you. Yeah, ConAgra, definitely one of those huge ones. And a couple of you on the West Coast that are joining in. So great to have you tonight as well. Principle 1 in quality control in your relationships. The first principle in the ISO 9000 is customer focus. Organizations depend on their customers, and therefore they should understand the current and future customer needs. So as part of a quality control measure, businesses should meet those customer requirements and strive to exceed the customer's expectations. Let me give you a couple of examples inside a relationship and or outside of a relationship and inside of a relationship. So outside of a relationship, Monday, it was pouring down rain here in South Carolina, and I went into a restaurant middle of the afternoon just to relax for a few minutes, catch up with a friend, and I ordered a cup of coffee. So as I am waiting for the coffee, we grab a seat. I go to the bathroom to towel off, even though I had an umbrella. It was crazy raining. And when I was coming back to the table, so was the server with a black cup of coffee. And he said to me, "Would you like cream in this coffee?" Now, I see he's already to the table. I don't see that he has any creamer. I don't see any creamer on the table, but guess what? I would like some creamer. So I said, yes, I would love to have some creamer. And he opened up the palm of his hand, and there were 3 creamers waiting for me. Now, there's a couple things that happened in that moment. One of them was he was anticipating my need. And I thanked him for that. I said, "Thank you so much for anticipating my need." And he said, "You're welcome." So he anticipated the need, expecting that, and striving for the excellence that if I wanted it was there. Also, he just didn't throw 8 or 9 on the table that if I wanted them, I could have them, because there is something else that's going on in that restaurant that says give them what they need, but let's not be wasteful about it. So I love how they anticipated the need. They were striving to exceed my expectation, which they did, and it was just over a cup of coffee. Now, I had someone over to my home, hot, humid day, pushing up against 100 degrees, probably pushing up 80% humidity. They were at my place for about an hour, and I decided, in anticipating their need, that I was going to go ahead and give them a cold bottle of water for them to go. So as I got the cold bottle of water out, and I said, "Would you like a bottle of water to go?" And they replied. I handed them the water, and the response was, "Well, I don't drink cold water. I don't like to drink cold water. I prefer room temperature water because it just goes down easier." I quickly in this relationship said, "No problem. I do have some water that is not cold, and I can get that for you." No, it's okay. Do you see the tension that just created in that moment? So I had given a place of mutuality in thanking that person and acknowledging them for the customer focus that they had in that business transaction. But yet that didn't happen in the relationship. Do you see the stark contrast in that? So it takes 2 people to make that happen. Now, does that require me, if that didn't happen at the restaurant, to say, "Hey, you know what? You should have anticipated my needs and brought that along over to me"? Probably not, right? Doesn't sound good. So why would it sound any different in a relationship? So pay attention to how you react and respond to that extra level of customer focus, that quality assurance, that quality control, that level of quality that's in the relationship, and then how you respond to it. I come across with an attitude of gratitude. Always come across, when you're focusing on a customer, attitude of gratitude. The other thing on the other side of this principle is, as you're striving for it, it's easy to get your feelings hurt because you're anticipating the need. But if you know that in your relationship that's happening both ways, it's great. So if it's something where you're married in the middle of that, then probably a little bit of a conversation might be helpful and say, you know what, you kind of hurt my feelings. I'm not trying to be overly sensitive about it, but I want to just talk about the quality of our relationship and that I was really trying to service your need, thinking about that. And in the future, I'll go ahead and remember that as well. And just kind of move on from there. They might have had a bad moment. It may be a pattern. You just kind of have to see what it looks like. And then just have a good heart about it. Always come from it when somebody's offering you something with an attitude of gratitude. You can adjust it out later, but look at the heart through the action and through the word. The second thing I want to give, well, let me just put some scripture to this because I think it's important. This is in Philippians 2. We're talking about customer focus, but we're also talking about partner focus in relationships. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Hello. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Jesus, who being the very nature of God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant. And so it's with that mindset that we look at the serving of our partner in relationships, serving of our customers in business. Principle number 2 of that ISO 9000, which I'm laying over relationships tonight if you're just now joining in, is leadership. And in ISO 9000, this principle of leadership is established with unity of purpose. That's what leadership does. Leadership isn't, I'm in control, I'm barking out orders, and you're going to do what I'm telling you to do, period. Leadership is where you are bringing everyone together in a place of unity, and you are leading them with purpose and with direction within that organization. In a relationship, you would be co-leading with your spouse, partner, in your family life. That family includes not only what's going on at home, but where you guys are extended outside of the home as well. That there's unity in the purpose and the direction of where all of you are going. My next girlfriend is going to be named ISO 9000. Absolutely. You want to create and maintain this internal environment in which people can become fully involved in achieving the organization's objectives, so that everyone is a part of making the vision happen. And so the kids are required to do household chores and have certain expectations in the home to the level in which they have the ability to do. It doesn't make one person's job any more important than another. It just means everybody has a part in making it happen. So it's not because of me that we get to sit down at the table and eat, because I work outside of the home and I'm producing, and so therefore, if it wasn't for me working, the meal wouldn't be here. Quite frankly, if it wasn't for the person preparing the meal, it probably wouldn't have gotten on the table anyway. So it takes everybody to make that happen, and we look at each other as equals in contributing based upon our giftings and talents that are available. This principle is necessary because if you're not fully involved in all aspects of what's going on, then you both are individually as partners doing your own thing, and it's going to collapse. I'm going to give you this scripture. It's from 1 Corinthians 1:10, and it says, I appeal to you, brothers and sisters, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that all of you agree with one another in what you say, and that there is no division among you, but that you be perfectly united in mind and in thought. When we're talking about systems in business, it's easy to kind of map those out. There's, there's office systems, so there might be transportation, logistics, there might be production, quality control, research and development. You've got all of these, places that are all divisions, but they're working together, right? But in a family, it's the same way. You may have philosophies that are coming up. So you have parenting philosophies and finance philosophies and, all of these other things. activities? What are the kids invested in? What are they eating? How are we eating as a family? What are we doing in order to exercise and maintain health? How is it that we should be involved in activities outside of the home? And when do we have family night? And there are all of these things that have to be talked about. Communication and trust are at the core. And it requires, tied together, patience. Especially if you've not approached this, you've just sat there in that relationship and said, you know what, I'm not happy. 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 That gets tiring after a while. So you've got to say, hey, I really want to work this out. What can we do? If the other person, and maybe you're in a dating relationship and the other person says, I can't do that. Okay, well, maybe they don't have the capacity to do that for you. That doesn't mean that your expectation's too high. Maybe you need to take a look at that. But if you've had that in other relationships and you're not having it in the one that you're in, then you need to ask yourself, is that really the relationship that I really want to be in? If you're married and you're struggling in that area, man, you guys are going to have to sit down and talk, but you can't conquer everything in one night. Just say, hey, sweetheart, I want to talk to you about the kids. You know, I realize that we've been eating a lot of fast food lately. It's affecting our finances. It's affecting their health. And although it's convenient for us, I'm wondering what you and I can do in order to kind of rein this in, because they've been eating a lot of sugar. They're wired up in the evening. It's not helping me. It's not helping you. We're not getting time together. It's just affecting everything. And I'm wondering where you and I can maybe come to an agreement. And you're going to have to meet and talk about just that issue. It's not, you always feed the kids sugar. You always feed them too late. You always stop at stop. It's how you are communicating. Be unified, right? Don't create division in that. There's no division among you. Principle 3 of the ISO 9000 that I'm laying over for relationships tonight, engagement of people or the involvement of people. And we kind of touched on this just a minute ago. But people at all levels of an organization are the essence of the organization. Every single person, the receptionist to the president, the janitor to the principal. Everyone is equally a part and has equal value and full involvement in what's happening in the business, and in this case, in the family unit or in the relationship. So that is used for, when everyone's involved, it is for the benefit of the relationship. So when both are equally invested, then both are invested in the purpose and the direction of where that relationship is going. We have to recognize the giftings and the talents that each one of us has and work toward that. Hey, you may not be great in finances, but your spouse is. That doesn't mean that you completely take your hand off the wheel of it. Be mutually invested as well, but if that's their expertise, then let them drive it and you can ride shotgun. But at least know what's going on. It's the same with your kids. Hey, I don't know where they are tonight. My wife takes care of all that. Well, find out. But then don't forget to acknowledge and praise the things that she's doing while you're able to work a long day, because she's handling children and doing what she needs to do. And when your husband comes home and that leaky faucet still isn't fixed and he's tired, he's had a long day, that, you know what, maybe that's a weekend project. And so but hey, as soon as he walks in the door, you're already pounding on him. Give him some time, let him relax, and then begin that process and say, hey, sweetheart, I'm wondering when we might be able to take a couple of hours. Is there something I can do? Is there a part I can get at the big box store in order to help this process along? Or maybe, it's just really irritating for me, and maybe I just need to say, okay, I know you'll get to it when you can get to it, and I need to do that internally. But see how I'm communicating that out? Not, you never do this. It's been 5 weeks. I've told you. I'm tired of it. Do something about it. Why are you late again? See, all of that doesn't help with communication. It's the quality of the communication, it's the level of trust, and it's the patience that comes with that helps to develop the quality of that relationship. 1 Peter 4:10, when we're talking about people involvement in relationships. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. Principle 4 in ISO 9000 is process approach. And what this is that you want a desired result, and how you want that to be achieved should be more efficiently when the activities and the related resources are managed as a process, so that you look at it from start to finish and you say, okay, where can we tweak this out so that it's more efficient and it's more effective? So this whole thing of racing around in the morning to get things done when there might be a better process for that, and instilling some level of routine or habits into your relationship can be helpful. So maybe you all can't go out to eat every night or once a week or even once a month because you've got a lot going on. But it would be a really nice treat for you guys to be able to do something special together as a family. So you find something where you can order a cheap pizza and bring it in once a month and have a movie night or do something like that. And now that becomes a habit or a routine or something that's evolved in the process of you creating unity in your family. Maybe you guys have different work schedules and so you never see each other, and instituting something in the process and the management of your life. It could be also with your finances too, something like that. Wherever it is, lay over a process and say, what can I do to help you with this process? Because you seem to be, when I walk in the door, you are run ragged from the day. I don't know if it's because you've just been with the kids all day and you haven't had a chance for yourself. What can I do? And you may say, you know what you could do? Maybe just a couple nights a week, be focused on you having the kids by yourself. I don't care if you take them out or do something, but if you leave them here, then I can go out for a couple hours and just walk by myself and get some alone time, or walk with a friend and relax a little bit. Or, sweetheart, maybe when I come home from work, just let me dial down for a second, have a sweet tea, zone in and watch some sports for a little bit until I can get my brain where I need to be, and then I can engage you. But I need that time in order to wind down. What am I doing? I'm communicating. I'm also building trust because there's truth with love that I'm speaking. And then lastly, there's patience involved. Give it some time. Habits develop, and then they're ingrained and they're hard to get out of. When you're in a relationship that's not committed yet to marriage, then you can kind of sort that out and say, okay, is this person really going to be working it out for me here? Are they willing to make the changes? Are they in a place where they can? If they're not, release it and let it go, because if it's meant to be, it'll boomerang and come back to you. God's large and in charge, and he'll make that happen for you. But if they're not, then they're just double-minded, and you don't want to be there either. The other thing when it comes to process approach, there are a couple biblical principles I want to bring out here. This is in Proverbs 21:5. It says, the plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. And the next one is from 2 Timothy, it's 2:15. And if you've never followed me before, I'm just giving you some quotes of scripture from the Bible. And once this gets recorded, I go ahead and give you the link to the Bible verse, and you can go back and click on it. If you're watching this recorded, it'll roll up as soon as I begin speaking about it. So it's right there, and you can click on it and go over and read it for yourself. This one is 2 Timothy 2:15. Do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a worker who does not need to be ashamed and who correctly handles the word of truth. Again, in process, right? I do have dimples, don't I? Thanks, Kevin, for noticing tonight. Principle 5 in the ISO 9000, we're laying this over relationships. ISO 9000, quality control management. Principles that are used in business that I believe have not only biblical principles, but can also be translated into relationships. Principle 5 out of 7 is improvement. There is a Japanese word called kaizen, K-A-I-Z-E-N. I have studied that over the years, and it's about continuous improvement. I highly value the principle, and I use it in my everyday life. This principle is about improvement of an organization. The overall performance should be the permanent objective of the organization, that it's overall always performing, and there's always places for there to be improvement. And so for us as individuals, for us as a couple, for us as a family, it's good to do a checkup and a check-in and say, hey, how are we doing? Let's go out and have an ice cream and just kind of hang out for a little bit. Let's go for a walk, see what's going on. And how do you think things are going with this child, with this child? What do you think are some things we need to be doing with our finances? And how are you and I doing? And how's our sex life? And what what kind of things can I be doing to better serve you in our relationship? And I know you've got this career change that's on the horizon, and do you want to talk about that and get some direction? And where are we going? Is this going to include a move? Is there a buyout? What are some other options? Hey, I want to sit down and talk to you, but I'm gathering some information right now about this job change because the company's downsizing. I don't know where it's going. I don't know what to do, but I don't have enough information to sit down and talk to you. Give me another week or so, and then just be praying for your spouse while they're sorting that out, trusting with patience, and they're communicating with you. Hey, it's not that I don't want to talk to you. I don't have enough information to talk to you about it right now, and I've got to get my brain around it before I can even begin to intelligently speak with you. And it's not that I don't want to tell you. It's just I'm trying to sort it out. This comes from Titus 2:7. Show yourselves in all aspects to be a model of good work, and in your teaching, show integrity and show dignity. Always be improving. Always room for improvement. We're never perfect. We're always being transformed. So there's always areas where we need to look. I talked to a friend just, a couple weeks ago, and I said, I'm struggling in this area. And would you talk to me about it? Because I know that my thinking pattern's wrong, but I'm trying to understand how I can think a different way about it because I'm getting sour about this issue. And so she began to talk it out and give it to me from the outside in, and I was able to see a blind spot that I hadn't seen before, but I knew something wasn't setting right because I didn't feel good in my heart about it. So if you have something like that going on, be humble, be transparent, be authentic, be vulnerable about it. Maybe you can't have that level with your spouse, but maybe you have someone else close to you that you can say, can you look at this for me? Because I'm trying to work with my spouse on it, but I'm having some bitterness and I need to understand maybe I'm not approaching this the right way, or maybe I have a wrong attitude. Always growth, process, transformation. I'm going to give you one more verse on this before we go to the next principle. It's Colossians 1, and these are 3 verses. And so, from the day we heard, we have not ceased to pray for you, asking that you would be filled with knowledge of His will in all spiritual wisdom and understanding. Ask for the spiritual wisdom and the understanding so that you can grow, so that you can progress, so that you can transform, so as to walk in a manner worthy of God, fulfilling and pleasing Him, bearing fruit in every good work and increasing in your knowledge in God. And so it says, being strengthened with all power according to His glorious might, not on your own power, but on the power of God, for all endurance and patience with joy, giving thanks to God. This is where we can lean into Scripture. And I talked about meditation last week. Go back and look at that 20-minute segment on when I talked about what it's like to meditate and how that can transform your life. Principle 6 out of 7 on the ISO 9000 quality control and how that lays over onto relationships. Evidence-based decision making. Ladies, we get a thought in our mind and our brains are gone. We've already got them somewhere that they never even thought that they would even be. Because our brains begin to work overtime like, okay, I didn't hear from him. Where's he at? What's he doing? What's this? What's that? Oh, I wonder if it's this. I wonder if it's that. And all of a sudden, now our brain's 90 miles a minute. There's nothing evidence-based. It's your brain making things up. I don't know how often we do this, ladies, but we do. Some of you men have a tendency toward this as well. Evidence-based decision-making. When you make your decisions, make sure that they're evidence-based. Effective decisions are based on the analysis of data and information. Make sure you've gathered that. Be patient, trusting, and communicate well. I'm going to give you a quick example. I was married for about 1.5 years, and I was at the window washing dishes, and I kissed my husband goodbye, and he went out the driveway, and I saw him make a right. And as I'm finishing washing up the dishes, I look out and I see his truck going back past the house in the opposite direction of where he's supposed to go to work. Are you kidding me? Where's he going? It's 6:30 in the morning. I watched the next day. Same time, same mode of operandi. You know what? I'm not going to deal with this. I don't know where he's going, but he's never told me that he's going anywhere else. And why does he have to leave so early for work? Now I'm thinking about that. A lot of questions in my mind. So after the third day, I said to him when he came home, relaxed after dinner, I said, I've been at the sink doing dishes, and I explained to him what I had observed. And he said to me, let me tell you what I've been doing. He said, I'm going early because I have found what I believe to be a beautiful piece of property that's for sale. And I want to build us a house. And I go over to this property with my cup of coffee in the morning to pray and watch the sunrise and see what God would have for us to do. And I was like, wow, that is amazing. I already had him hooked up, shacked up, and in bed with some other woman by 7 a.m., right? Because my brain was already there. But in communicating, I was able to hear that. Now, always trusting. There was never any dishonesty in the relationship. So there was trust that had already been established. I was able to then say, well, let me tell you where my brain was going. And he said, well, I'm so glad that you talked about it. So communicate, trust, and have patience. This principle 6 of evidence-based decision-making is so important. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says, trust in the Lord with all of your heart and do not lean on your own understanding, and always acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. It will be healing to your flesh and refreshing to your bones. Seek God. If you see something that's not lining up in relationship, especially somebody who's double-minded meaning they're like, I really need to stop doing that activity, but yet they continue to do it. Or maybe there's something else where they're like, what, I'm not doing that anymore. I've checked out of that. Well, they say that in the morning, but then in the evening you find out they're doing it. But then the next day they're like, yep, I'm not doing that. Well, that's because they're not doing it in that moment. But later in the day, they're back into it again. And so they're speaking out of both sides of their mouth. And you're like, what's happening here? So if you're married to that, you might want to call it out, not in a way that's hurtful, but in a way that's loving and trusting and with patience, and you're communicating well, right? There's a lot to invest in relationships for quality control to happen, right? So be wise in how you approach it. Seek God for the guidance that you need. James 1, 5 through 8 says this, if anyone lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to everyone without finding any fault, and it will be given to you. But when you ask, you must believe God and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave in the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. That person should not receive anything from the Lord. Such a person is double-minded and unstable in all they do. Double-mindedness leads to instability. If you're dating that, you probably want to get out of it until they stabilize, and you can see a pattern of behavior that's good. Trust has been reestablished. You're communicating very openly and honestly. Otherwise, it's going to crash and burn. If you're in a marriage and that's going on, you need to have some difficult conversations, but take it bit by bit. Don't go biting off too much, because then you won't be able to chew it all at one time and it'll end up imploding on you. Last relationship quality control principle. I'm taking ISO 9000 and laying it over that quality management principles. This is the last one for tonight. Relationship management is what it's called. An organization and its external providers, its suppliers, its contractors, service providers, are interdependent and mutually beneficial for the relationship with that entity, and it enhances the ability to create value. If you're in a marriage and you don't have healthy relationships that you all can go to and mix in and with your children and be a part of, then really you're an island. So get out and establish those key connections for yourself. If you're dating, then have someone of the same sex, same gender as you to be accountability partner for you, so that you can go to them and say, hey, will you pray for me? I'm struggling in this area, in this relationship, and I don't know if I'm just bumping up against it because it's an issue that I have, or if it's an issue that they have and I need to address, or if it's an issue that I probably don't even need to be addressing. I probably just need to not walk from it, but put on my running shoes and get out of it as fast as I can in the opposite direction. So when you're in a dating relationship, you can look at that. Have some interdependent relationships that are outside of the relationship that you're in, that are safe havens and places. And you don't need to tell everybody. Facebook is not the place to do this, folks. But seek wise counsel. Have those people praying for you. And it also instills accountability. The other thing, when you're talking about interdependent relationships, even within the confines of your family, in your marriage, when you're relating to one another, I've talked about communication, I've talked about trust, I've talked about patience, but wrapped up in all that at its core is love. And if we are not extending love in that relationship, then all of this other stuff isn't going to matter. Because at the core, we're to love God and love others as we love ourselves. Heart, soul, mind, and strength, right? Emotionally invested, we're spiritually invested, we're intellectually, mentally invested, and we're physically invested in that, okay? Now, I'm going to give you this scripture. And it's always something that we hear at weddings and things like that. But if you can just read through it for yourself and think about the relationship that you're in 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 13, it says, love is patient. Are you patient with your partner? Love is kind. Are you kind toward your partner? It does not envy, and it does not boast. Are you always boasting to your partner about yourself in order to, build up your own ego? Or are you looking for your own ego to always be built? These kinds of things, it does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered, right? And so we look at these things and we say, okay, how can I love this person? I could go on and read all of it, but I'm going to put the link on here for you to do that. Also, under this principle of managing your relationship, the last scripture I have for you tonight is in Hebrews 10. It's verses 24 and 25, and it says, and let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. Not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as we see the day approaching, and all the more as we are in the end times. We should be loving one another and encouraging one another and supporting them in good deeds. How are we doing acts of service, giving quality time, giving words of affirmation, right? How are we physically connecting with our partner? You may be in a marriage tonight, in a committed long-term partnership, saying, oh yeah, I can do all that, but they're not going to do it. And I would submit to you that if you are in that, I'm going to put a link here for a book in Amazon that you can pick up. It's called Love Dare. And it talks about how you could dare to love in a way that even though the other person is not loving you back, hi Jeff, even though the other person is not loving you back in the way that you can be loved or way that you want to receive that you would continue to love them. And love them in this way and watch how that transforms them. We don't have any control over our partner in our relationships. We just don't. We can communicate with them. We can let them know how we feel. We can let them know what our desires are. But the bottom line is they are in control of themselves and they have the free will choice in the relationship. If you're in a marriage, I would recommend this Love Dare just to read, even if your relationship's going really well, because you're going to have patches and you're going to have rough spots. And how do you get through them? If you're constantly just attacking and trust has been broken, then you've got to work on how do we rebuild that trust together. And if the deception still continues, then you're going to have to go the next step and seek counseling. And then you're going to have to go the next step and and try to work everything that you can to try and work it out. If it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen, but you don't have any control over the other person. But I submit to you, Love Dare. And I thought I had the book here. I do. It's written by Kendrick, I think. Let me just look real quick. Quality Control in Relationships, folks, is what we're talking about tonight. Stephen and Alex Kendrick. Anyway, it's called The Love Dare. And I've had several of you, mostly men, say the sex life in my marriage is horrible, horrible, horrible. There's a level of enjoyment during sex, and it's much more about what's going on in the heart, what's going on in the mind, what's going on in the spirit, right? As much as it is what's going on physically. And so I encourage you also to read this book, because it'll give you some tips on how you can reach out to your spouse. And some of us women are in that same boat too with our spouses, and we're not getting the attention, or we're not getting the love, or we're not having that sexual intimacy that we once had. That sexual enjoyment is not just a physical act. There's so much more that's wrapped up into it. And that if these other things are firing on all cylinders, if they're not firing on all cylinders, you're not going to have that level of satisfaction, and you're going to walk away marginally satisfied, and then it's not going to go from there, right? So Kevin says, sex, what's that, right? All of us here in these single relationships, I hear what you're saying. As I close out for tonight, I want to just read some of this. It says, I have no relationship, Pat says. Since my wife passed with a lady, only one I have been with, and I wish I had a girlfriend. You know what? Pray about that, Pat. Just ask the Lord to guide you and guide your heart, guide your eyes to see, have him open up your eyes for the woman that he may want for you to meet. And then I say, take courage to say, hey, would you like to go for a cup of coffee? And develop that out as a friendship and see where it goes from there. Because what you're saying is you long for the female companionship. And I talked about that a couple of weeks ago, how, a side of Adam came out of him because it was not good for man to be alone. And so if you're struggling in that area, I strongly encourage you to seek God, and I'll be praying for you about that too, that you would find joy again in the companionship of a woman. Let me just see who else is here. I just want to say hello to all of you who joined in and that you're in the house. So I'm glad that you're here. Oh, good. I'm glad you've been praying, Pat. And I will join you in praying for that too. And for all of us, like you said, Kevin, who, are single, you're like, sex, what's that? I get it. But I also want to encourage you that if you're in a season right now of this, look at some of these things about quality in your relationships and begin to do that with your friendships and in your workplace and at your church or in your neighborhood, and begin to exercise this with your children, because that quality you're going to bring into the next relationship that you have. Love God, love others, and love yourself. Good night.